Hey guys, Foxdrop here with a video on how to have less deaths when you're playing League of Legends. It may sound pretty obvious, but having less deaths is actually a very critical and crucial part of improving as a League of Legends player, more than just the goal and experience that you'll be giving over to the enemy team when you die. Generally speaking, there are two main ways for you to improve as a player, two things that stop you from playing better, if that makes sense. First one of those being that you're not doing enough of the right things, and the second one of those being that you're doing too much of the wrong things, and your deaths is the latter of those. And this is actually probably the easiest one for you to fix, so if you can focus on this, you will become a much better player quite easily. Now, obviously no one likes dying, and obviously we all understand the importance of not dying, but there is something a little underappreciated about deaths in League, and that is the psychological effect that it has on not only you, but also your teammates. Chances are, if you've ever tilted in League, it's because of something death related, especially if you're tilting because of yourself. If you ever get frustrated at yourself in the plays you're making, chances are the spark of that, the trigger, is when you die. On top of that as well, the fewer deaths you have, the fewer reasons your allies have for hating you. So it does work in your favor for that as well. Bottom line is that death represents failure in League, so we're going to teach you today how to improve that. As always guys, if you have any feedback about this kind of video, or if you have any questions about the topic, you can always leave those in the comments down below. And also, if you like the video, don't forget to leave the cheeky thumbs up. But anyway, let's get on with it. Now, a very wise man who goes by the name of Berry, who is a very good Lee Sin main on Oceania, he once said that, or he defined that whenever you die, every single time that you die in League, it's because of one fundamental problem. That problem being that you have underestimated someone in some capacity. Now, when you think about it, that does ring pretty true. So therefore, the way to avoid your deaths is somewhat simple. If you stop underestimating people, the more knowledge you have, the less you will die. Now, just saying that by itself may not really help you too much, but if you really sit there and you think about it and just think, actually, that time I invaded and I got caught out, that's because I underestimated how fast the enemy team would rotate onto me. That time I tried to 1v1 someone and I almost killed them but I didn't, I underestimated my damage, or I underestimated their damage, and overestimated my damage. Maybe I underestimated how tanky they were, something like that. Every single time you've mucked up, it's because you've not had a full understanding of the situation. Now, this is all just theory, right? I mean, it all makes sense, but how do you really apply this into your game? Well, in my opinion, the best way to do that is to actually learn every time you die. Like, literally every time that you die, make a note. Like, have a little notepad by the side on your mouse mat, or like on your second monitor or something, and just write down your death. And then write down a little note about why you died. If you know why you died, then you can know what it is that you did wrong, and therefore you can learn from that and not do it in the future. If every time that your screen goes black, or grey, I guess is more accurate, every time your screen goes grey, ignore the black part, just think, okay, why? Why did it go grey? Write it down, learn from it. The next way to avoid deaths is to have a better understanding of your limitations. Now, this is part of the reason why specializing on maining a champion in a role is so important in League, because the more you play one person, the more you're going to know how that works. If you main one champion, you're going to know what it is they can get away with and what it is they can't get away with. You're going to know where they're strong and where they're not strong. If you don't main those champions, then you might go into a fight thinking you can do it, and actually you can't. But if you had more experience, then you would know you can't do it. Now, point here to make too is that in that learning process, don't be afraid to make those mistakes. Don't be afraid to push your limits and then really understand how much you can get away with. If you're always playing passively and not really pushing yourself, you're never going to know what you can get away with, because you're never going to push those limits and see. I wouldn't really recommend playing balls to the wall, really aggro in ranked games, but just queue up for a normal, play that champion for a little while, see what you can get away with. But it's not just your own champion that you should be focusing on as well. You really need to know the limitations of other champions as well. What I'd actually recommend doing is, if you're getting stomped by a specific champion especially, is to actually play that champion and learn how it works. Unlock the champion and then just play a bunch of games with it in normals, and then you'll really understand what it is they can get away with. If you were in a 1v1 situation and you wanted to have the most knowledge possible, then you would be picking two champions that you knew inside and out. Imagine you're someone like Red Mercy, right, who's very good on Zed and very good on Yasuo. Those are his two signature champions. Now, if you ignore matchups about who is good versus who, in a 1v1 situation, he would probably want to pick a Yasuo versus Zed, just because he is gonna know 100% how to play that matchup. He's going to know not only the limitations of the champion that he's chosen to play, so what he can get away with, but he's going to perfectly understand the limitations of the enemy champion as well. That is because he understands how those champions work. As his knowledge goes for that specific situation and that 1v1, he's going to know exactly how to play it because he has all the resources in his head on how to do that. So yeah, basically don't just play your own champion and learn them, it's also a good idea to play the other champions and understand how they work too. Another tip on how to die less frequently as well is to kind of change your mentality about how you view solo queues. Specifically, you should avoid the mentality that you're going to have to hard carry every single game and all your teammates are always just boosted bonobos. The reason why this can actually be detrimental to how much you die is because if you're always thinking you're the big cheese, you're always going to be trying to make the big plays. You're always going to be thinking, well, I have to go for this, well, I have to get this advantage, well, I have to go aggressive here. If I don't carry, no one will. The fact of the matter is, if these people are in your games, your teammates, then statistically speaking, they are just as good players as you. You should have a little more faith in them. On top of that as well, if you think your teammates are terrible boosted players, then the enemies must be terrible boosted players too. If you don't put yourself on such a high pedestal, then you won't always be making those ballsy, aggressive plays, which sometimes are just stupid plays, and instead you can hold back and play the game more smart. The last point I want to make here about having less deaths is somewhat related to the last one, but somewhat not, which is why I made it its own point, is to have a better understanding of how the game's going, specifically by reading what your opponents are doing. What I mean by that is to understand through the opponent's actions, through their movements, as to what might be going on. If you're always going to be taking every single bait thinking that he's just an idiot because he's a bad player and you're an elo hell and all that malarkey, then you're probably going to die a lot because you're going to fall for those baits. Showing a little bit of respect and thinking that the opponent might know a little bit about what he's doing will actually help you a lot into dying less. However, having said that, playing aggressive and playing in your opponent's face is a good way to be playing. You don't always want to be pulling back when they go aggressive thinking you're going to get baited upon. But this is an argument for having good vision. Always make sure you have good vision down before you make some aggressive plays. Basically, that's all I want to say for this video, guys. This is actually quite a hard one to cover because there are loads of small reasons why you might be dying in game, from mechanical to decision making, and it's so hard to cover them in a video like this. So I kind of just tried to give some like overall points. I don't know whether it worked out too well, just let me know what you thought down below. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great day. As always, you can catch me on streaming on twitch.tv/Foxdrop. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter, tweeting away and doing all that lovely social media stuff. All those links are down in the description, but most importantly, like I said, thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.